We're going to go ahead and pull this off. I said before, this isn't a restoration, I'm just cleaning it up. So I'm going to take this off, remove the coil box. I'm just going to kind of wire brush everything, and then we'll treat this whole thing with rust treatment. It's a phosphoric acid, and it takes the rusty stuff and just kind of converts it to a black coating and preserves it. I've already kind of loosened up these bolts just to expedite things. Here's a crusty old coil box. This is just a little terminal block where all the wires come together, but look at that. Look at all the bugs and stuff that have been living in there. Kind of nasty, huh? Basically, I just take this thing, I clean it, I hit it with a belt sander, and then I put fresh screws, and man, it looks like new when we're done. Okay, we got this. I just wire brushed it to knock off all the loose stuff, and it gets it to just a real smooth, rusty surface. The stuff that I use, this stuff's made by Permatex, but there's lots of different brands that make it. It's a rust converter is what it is. So normally, you know, you want paint to stick, you got to really sand it and get all the rust gone. This is, it chemically kind of reacts with the rust. It's phosphoric acid is what I think is in it, and when you put it on, it reacts with the rust. It makes a hard black coating, and then if you want, you can paint over that. You can leave it as is, but I'd used this stuff with success for many years. You can get it at Napa or any place really. Here's our coil box. Okay. I speed through this pretty fast. It's not, you know, real complete on how this coil box works, but there are some good videos on Model T coil boxes if a guy wanted to watch them. I watched one before I did this, and it kind of gave me some pointers. Okay, that's our ignition switch. One side is magneto, one side is battery. These two little wires are holding us up. Oh, there's our ignition switch. I got new liners that'll replace the wood that's made of a plastic, and all the wiring will be new as well. Okay, so that's our coil box. I took it all apart, cleaned everything up, painted everything. There's our 4 coils inside. Let's see if we can get that back on. Okay. We've got new hardware on the back. We're ready to go ahead and mount everything up. That's the key switch. One side would be for battery and one side would be for magneto. Kind of a funny little key. So anyway, let's see if we can get that up there or not. Alright, we should be able to throw on some spark plug wires too. I think that one farthest to the right. That one, I believe. There. I had to make this bar. It was missing. This is just a piece of rod. It serves the same purpose. That'll kind of hold everything together, so as we mock stuff up, we can see what it's going to look like. So if we look there, then when we set our hood on, which I took this apart previously, I took all the hinge pins out and kind of straightened it up just a little. The hood will sit in like so, and the spacing looks just about right where our hood makes contact. So I'll kind of snug that up. I can see right here on this right side, we're kind of bent up. This is going to have to be formed. I'll have to get everything bent how it needs to go. This is pretty beat up. But anyway, it's kind of starting to come together a little bit and look like it might run someday. This radiator probably is going to have some leaks. I need to fill it up with water and see. Might have to do a little bit of soldering on it to get it where it needs to be. But yeah, it won't focus, but it says Holley NH. I've been told it's a very good carburetor. As far as dependability, I went through this one and put a kit in it, cleaned it all up. It was in good shape inside, so should work like it's supposed to. Okay, interesting thing about these, they're really old. There is no air cleaner, and I guess there's a tendency they ice up. It's pulling in air, it ices up, it can cause you problems. So they make this hot air pipe. It goes on there, and it just sucks hot air off the exhaust manifold to keep everything warm. This was missing, so I picked one up. Let's see how it fits in here. This was an aftermarket piece, like it's reproduced. Didn't fit quite right, and I'm still not sure if it's because I just didn't know how to put it on correctly or if it just needed a little tweaking, but I screwed around with it for a long time, and eventually, we get it as good as we can get it. I don't know. Looks good enough, I guess. Anyway, this is the throttle here. This is a mixture screw. It's got a mixture needle on the end of it. This is our choke, which I think there would be something here that's going up to the front. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'll just manually hold that when I need to choke it to prime the engine. And this is where the fuel comes in. So there will be a fuel line running back to the tank. I picked up a new wire harness. There's not much to it on this car because there's no headlights or generator or starter or anything. This is just for the commutator. So those 4 wires there are going down to the timer, and that just is what completes the circuit so it can energize each coil. So I had the chance to speak with somebody who actually knows something about Model Ts. He explained to me that when these timers are really worn in between the connections, he said if you can feel a big ridge there, it's it's going to cause you problems and misfires. So I have another timer that I got, a better style. Let's look at that. So this is a different style. I mean, it looks, roughly the same and all. Okay, this one you can see instead of the solid outside, it's got these 4 tabs. And then the roller is this little flapper. And the flapper just comes around and strikes those tabs. So we're going to clean this up. This is the timer we're going to try and use. So I'll throw that on, and that's what I'm going to put back together. So that's what it looks like. This is super cool because it even says like wire colors. It's hard to see, but it actually says, black, blue, green, and red. This sits on there. That timer, the advance arm sticks in from that side. There's no good way for me to do this so you can really see exactly what I'm doing because the radiator and everything is in the way. And it's sort of a tight fit to get it down in there where it needs to be. So I know that this is really hard to see. Those 4 wires coming around there. As I adjust this, the whole thing moves. And that's what adjusts the timing. This radiator hose on the bottom consists of 2 little short pieces, and then there's a metal tube that goes in between. And I'm happy with the hoses. You can see I took the water pump off because it was in the way. I will say this, the clamps that came with this were the cheapest clamps. They look nice and they look kind of old-fashioned, but they leaked. I just fought with them. No matter how I played around with them, I was having leaks. So I ended up just putting some worm gear clamps on there, which worked a whole heck of a lot better. But otherwise, worked okay. Just for a fun little experiment, I hooked up a 6-volt battery. So I've just got power running to the battery post there. So when I crank this over, we'll get spark. You can hear a coil buzzing. And as we turn it over, that'll change. There's a different coil buzzing. A little more. There's another coil. And lastly, I went ahead and pulled a wire. You can see that coil firing. As I turn it over just a little more, there. Now we're on to the next one. So everything's working as far as how it's supposed to fire. It's giving us spark on our different cylinders. So this is my exhaust pipe. There's a nut. This has a flange on it. I'm going to fashion this into an exhaust pipe. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to heat this up, and I'm just going to carefully work it with a hammer, and I'm just going to see if I can slowly fashion a flare. I don't have a flaring tool. This is 1 1/4 inch. I don't have an 1 1/4 inch flaring tool, so rather than take it to an exhaust shop and have it done professionally, I'm just going to try and do something here in the shop. I don't know how well it's going to work. It's probably not great, but I mean, this isn't real high-tech stuff. That's kind of what we end up with. Very hot, but whew. We'll cool that off and then we'll take another look. Alright, take a look at this. This is the muffler. This was the inside baffle. It was so rotten, when you tighten it down, it didn't have any support. So I made this one just from a piece of old stovepipe and drilled some holes in it. It gives us supports when we tighten it down. It doesn't crush this outer sleeve. I drilled some holes in it. This is the most redneck homemade muffler. I just want to quiet it down a little bit. I don't know if this will work or if it's just going to just immediately burn up this fiberglass. It might be a stupid idea. I don't know. Who cares? We're just going to try it. So kind of put that around there. Cut this off. If it provides a little bit of sound deadening, that's great. If it burns out the fiberglass, that's great. I guess the only bad thing would be if it provided too much restriction and made it, you know, too much back pressure. I guess that would be bad, but I'm just not that worried about it. The new muffler probably isn't that expensive, but okay, so we put that on there. Get everything centered up. Breathe a little fiberglass insulation. Okay. Put that on there. Okay. Feels sturdy. So I'm going to have to kind of do a little fabricating here. I can turn this back part. There's a, let's see, where this pipe's coming down, I've got a 90 that I think I'm going to cut that pipe and weld that on, and we're just going to jimmy everything up together. We'll get this somehow mounted under there. It's just going to be kind of a Frankenstein, but you can't really buy a custom exhaust that's going to fix this, and it doesn't matter. It's, you know, just going to get something on there. Alright, we got our exhaust all welded up. I just kind of hold everything where it needs to be and just weld pieces where I need to. Definitely not going to win any awards. So, on this end, when I had made this earlier, even when I screwed this all the way on to the manifold there, it was still kind of loose. So I just took an old piece of 1¼ inch pipe, cut a little off, and split it. That just acts as a spacer, so then I don't have to thread that on quite as far to make it tight and get a seal right there. Right there on the manifold, I have generally put, generously I should say, put a bunch of anti-seize all over that. This, come up through. Like that. That started. Back here, I took this bolt out and I made a little 90-degree connector there. So then we can take the back of that exhaust, hold it up there. Didn't have to drill any additional holes or anything. Snug that up a little bit. What that does is that takes the exhaust, the output, and puts it down on the bottom. Okay, and then it all sets in kind of nicely. The muffler sets in. It's really close, but it's not touching this pipe. Comes up, does not touch the hogshead, although it's very close. We'll snug that down. We'll snug this down, and then we should have a nice sturdy exhaust. Sets in there pretty nice and level. I think it's going to look good. So we've made a little progress. I went ahead, I mounted the gas tank. Just an old tank I had off another old piece of equipment. Mounted it on these two 2x4s, and I put a old bicycle inner tube that I split to give me some rubber and give me some padding underneath. That should work pretty good. Fuel line comes out the bottom. Kind of hard to see, but there's a little shutoff there that doesn't really work. I've got a fuel filter, and then we've got a little shutoff here that's a little easier to access. That comes underneath and goes to the carburetor right there. This would have had a special compression with a ferrule in there. I had this little adapter. It just takes a little flat gasket in there. That seems to work. Let's see. Got my exhaust fixed up in the last one, so we're ready to go on that. Over here for the choke, I've taken and bent this little piece of wire to go through that choke arm. That comes up here, and I fashioned a little ring. This is kind of like originally how it would have been. As I pull this, it chokes it. That way you have a place to choke it while you're cranking it over. What else? I went ahead and put some coolant in it, and I have radiator leaks all over the place, which, why not? I got a leak right there. Potentially a leak there. Got a pretty good leak there. And on the other side, hard to see, but there's a leak right there. But that's okay. The awesome thing is, the way this frame is built, there's a Y under there that just perfectly funnels everything to drip down into my pan, so none of it's going on the ground. That's okay. We just want to see if this thing's going to run. Otherwise, pretty much all put together. I went ahead and I've got my 6-volt battery. One lead I've just got clamped to the engine, my negative, and then my positive going to this hot terminal. So this will run on battery or magneto. Once it's running, I'll take this and I'll switch this to battery to start it. Once it's running, I should be able to flip it over to magneto, and it should stay running, and then I can unhook the battery. That magneto in here, we don't know if that works or not, so that'll be interesting. I'll be very surprised if the thing just starts up, but maybe it will. Let's find out. So we got the timing retarded. Let's go to battery here. Okay. Oh, you know what? Okay, first let's turn that off. We need to prime it. So I'm going to pull the choke, and give it a few kicks. Choke off. Now we'll put it to battery. Now hopefully okay. Let's see. Okay, nothing. Let's try and give it a little throttle. Maybe I've got it too far with the timing. So this goes on for a long time. The whole issue was I didn't have any baseline for where my timing was supposed to be. So I didn't know if I was like way too far retarded or way too far advanced. And the other issue was I didn't have any idea where my carburetor baseline setting was at. So I was either, it was starved or I was running it way too rich. But there's just a lot of cranking. This went on and on till I thought my arm was going to fall off. And you know, eventually I talked to some people who know what they're doing, and they were able to kind of give me some pointers and got me on the right track. It is cold out here. Okay. Now, back to battery. Whoa! She tried to start. She tried to start. All on its own. Whew. That's a good noise. Ooh, almost. Ooh, she's gonna start. Well, it started. For some reason, my camera shut off. I don't know what happened and why it happened. See if it'll start. Whoa, it almost just kicked over right there. Okay. So my camera is acting up, so I missed some more footage here. I did get it started, you know, I had honed this thing, so like the rings aren't broken, everything, this is a first start. And so it ain't running great, but it is running. Obviously I've got some coolant leaks here. I go ahead and switch it over to magneto right here, and it does run on magneto, which is a good thing. So we'll get some kinks ironed out, and then I'll do one last little bit. So it's been a while since I got this thing running. I never completed the video, and then all this time went past and I got busy, but I kind of thought I owed it to just finish out the series. I did get this thing running. There's still some leaks in the radiator. There's no water in it right now. I just thought I'd show, like, starting it now when it's all put together. I run on magneto. There's not even a battery hooked up to it, and I know I've been told on a lot of these old Model Ts, like, the magnetos aren't in good enough shape when they've been sitting for a long time to run off magneto. This one does, so that's kind of nice. So everything turned off. I pull out the choke and give it a couple tugs, and a little gas will come out the side of the carburetor. I've got the timing retarded a little bit, and then we put it to magneto. It usually doesn't take much to get it to kick. You got to be ready to mess with the timing real fast. I might have had it too far. And it seems like you have to prime it. If you miss your one shot, you just prime it again. That usually gets it. Try it again here. don't want to run it too long when it's got coolant in it. Once it warms up a little bit, I adjust the mixture. It smooths out pretty good. It doesn't ever like purr like a kitten, but we knew this motor was pretty wore out. And it does run, it's a little noisy, but it's not outrageous. The PTO does work. I better shut the gas off. When I first started it, I didn't know if you could hear me, but I had the gas turned off. I forgot about that, got it turned on. A lot of little things to fool with, but it does run. It can use some more tinkering, but it is put together, and basically pushing this forward allows it to go into high. That's neutral. The PTO pretty much spins all the time, but anyway, that's what it is. Thanks for watching.